In today's video, we dive into a powerful story about Clarice Daniels, a janitor at a prestigious university who surprises everyone by solving a complex math problem that even the professors couldn't crack. What starts as a moment of mockery turns into a lesson in talent, perseverance, and the power of not being underestimated. Stay tuned to see how Clarice proves that brilliance can come from the most unexpected places. In a bustling college campus where students hurriedly dashed to classes and professors rushed to meetings, there was one person who moved quietly among them. Clara Johnson, a janitor, silently swept the halls. She wasn't loud, didn't draw attention, and wore the same faded blue work shirt every day. With sleeves rolled up to her elbows and rubber gloves dangling from her back pocket, Clara was a steady presence. You'd see her early in the morning, just before sunrise, quietly rolling her cleaning cart down the hallway, humming to the soft tunes of a gospel station. Clara knew the halls better than anyone. She'd wiped chalkboards, cleaned up after late-night study groups, and made sure the floors gleamed. Most people hardly noticed her, if at all. She wasn't invisible, not really. But she had become part of the backdrop, like the sound of squeaky shoes on the polished floors. But Clara had been sweeping the same floors since 2007, long before most of the faculty had even earned tenure. She paid attention, always listening, always watching. The things she noticed, the professors who swapped offices, the graduate students who cried after failing their exams, those things stayed with her, locked away in her mind. Clara didn't speak unless she had to, and only when someone really spoke to her first. On one particularly ordinary Thursday morning, the math department lounge smelled like stale coffee, and the professors gathered around, laughing at each other's jokes just like any other day. They were used to being the smartest people in the room. Professor Robert Howard tossed a half-eaten sandwich into the trash and leaned back in his chair. "Hey, Naomi," he said, "give us a problem that'll make us think, will you?" Naomi Langston, a tall, sharply dressed professor with his glasses perpetually smudged, loved a challenge. He wiped the board clean with a cloth and grabbed a green marker. With a few quick strokes, he scribbled down a complex equation that stretched across the whiteboard. Greek symbols, multivariable functions. It looked like something straight out of a graduate-level course. "All right," he grinned. "Who's up for this one?" Laughter filled the room, but no one moved to take on the equation. Clara, quietly cleaning nearby, overheard everything. She always did. Naomi, noticing her in the corner, turned to her with a smirk. "Hey, Clara," he called out playfully. "Want to give it a try? Maybe we'll put your name on the board." The group chuckled. Clara hesitated for just a moment. She had worked here for nearly a decade, and in all that time, no one had ever asked her for help with anything related to math. Yet, there she was, standing with the entire department staring at her. The equation on the board seemed intimidating, but something about it made her curious. She walked over silently, her worn sneakers making faint squeaks against the polished floor. Naomi, noticing her approach, smiled broadly. "What's the matter, Clara?" he asked, leaning against the desk. "Are you scared?" The other professors snickered, but there was a small part of them that was curious. Clara had been around for years, but no one really knew much about her. Most students and staff just passed her by as though she were invisible. She had been content with that, until now. Clara took a deep breath, her gloves still in her back pocket. She stood before the whiteboard, staring at the jumble of symbols. Without a word, she picked up the green marker Naomi had left on the desk. Her hand moved to the board, and she began solving the equation with fluid precision. The professors watched in stunned silence. No one had expected this. As she worked, Clara muttered to herself, her lips barely moving. The others in the room couldn't understand what she was saying, but the rhythm of her actions, calculating, writing, erasing, recalculating, was mesmerizing. It wasn't just a simple solution, it was a dance of intellect, a quiet mastery that the professors couldn't help but respect. After a few moments, she stopped. The equation was solved, the symbols neatly written and rearranged into a coherent, elegant solution. The room was silent. Naomi, still leaning against the desk, let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He was the first to speak. I... I don't believe it, he said slowly, his voice low with astonishment. How did you... Clara gave him a small, shy smile but didn't answer immediately. Instead, she picked up her cleaning cart and began rolling it away from the board. It's just numbers, she said quietly. Nothing magical about them. The professors exchanged looks, unsure of what to say next. The silence in the room was almost uncomfortable. Naomi finally broke the silence, though his voice was still filled with awe. Clara, you just solved a graduate-level problem in front of us like it was nothing. He paused, then added, Why didn't you ever say anything? You've been here for years, and no one knew you could do this. Clara looked at him, her gaze calm but direct. I'm here to clean, she said simply. I'm not here to show off. With that, she pushed her cart out the door, leaving a room full of professors stunned in her wake. The following days at the university were tense. Clara continued her usual work of cleaning, but now the professors often exchanged glances when she walked by. There was a new respect in their eyes, but also a subtle curiosity. It was as though they were all waiting for something more from her. Then, on an unusually quiet afternoon, Naomi approached Clara while she was mopping the floor of the main lecture hall. He hesitated for a moment before speaking. Clara, could we talk for a second? He asked, his voice quieter than usual. Clara paused, her mop still in her hands. She turned to face him, her expression neutral. Of course, she said simply, her voice soft but steady. Naomi stood there for a moment, unsure how to begin. He had never expected to have a conversation like this. You're really something, Clara, Naomi began, clearly struggling with his words. I didn't realize just how capable you are. It's impressive. He scratched his head, looking almost embarrassed. Clara didn't respond right away. She simply looked at him, her mop gently swaying in her hands. After a few seconds, she spoke. I've always been capable, she said, her tone calm but firm. I just didn't think anyone would care to notice. Naomi's eyes widened slightly, and he found himself at a loss for words. He had assumed that Clara's silence and modesty were signs of insecurity, but now, hearing her speak with such certainty, he realized how wrong he had been. I don't know what to say, Naomi admitted, scratching his chin. I've underestimated you. I've seen how hard you work, but I never imagined you had this kind of brilliance behind your quiet demeanor. Clara gave him a small, knowing smile. Not everything is about being loud or being noticed, she said softly. Sometimes it's about quietly doing what needs to be done. People like me just prefer to stay in the background. Naomi nodded, his respect for her growing even more. He didn't expect to learn something so valuable from Clara, someone he had always overlooked. There was a quiet strength in her, something he admired deeply now. I'm sorry I didn't see you for who you really are, Naomi said sincerely. I won't make that mistake again. Clara didn't respond immediately. Instead, she gave him a nod, then quietly returned to her task. As Naomi watched her walk away, he couldn't help but wonder how many more people like Clara there were. Quiet, brilliant minds, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to be noticed. The days passed, and Clara continued her routine. But something had changed. There was a subtle shift in the way the professors looked at her. They no longer seemed to view her simply as a cleaner, but as someone to be reckoned with. It was a quiet revolution in the halls of the university. One afternoon, as Clara was tidying up the faculty lounge, she overheard two professors talking. Their conversation caught her attention. Have you noticed how different Clara seems lately? One of them said. She's always been quiet, but there's something more to her now. I think she might have a future here. Clara stopped in her tracks, her heart skipping a beat. She hadn't expected such a conversation. It was a quiet compliment, but it was enough to make her wonder if the respect she had earned was truly genuine, or if it was just a passing trend. But then, Naomi appeared at the door, a warm smile on his face. "Hey, Clara," he said, his voice full of kindness. "I've been meaning to talk to you again. Can we grab a coffee after your shift?" Clara turned to him, her expression softening. She wasn't sure what to expect, but there was something about Naomi that made her feel at ease. "Sure, that sounds nice," she replied, smiling for the first time that day. As they sat in the small cafe near the university, Naomi leaned forward, his tone more serious than before. "Clara, I've been thinking about our conversation the other day. You're not just a cleaner, and you're definitely not someone to be underestimated. I want to help you. If you're interested, I can introduce you to some of the professors who might be able to guide you in your field." Clara was silent for a moment, processing his words. She hadn't expected this offer, and it made her feel both grateful and apprehensive. "I don't know if I'm ready for that," she admitted, looking down at her coffee. "I've never really considered myself someone worthy of that kind of opportunity." Naomi smiled gently, his eyes warm with understanding. "You're more than ready, Clara. I've seen the way you work, the way you think. You're incredibly talented, and you deserve to be recognized for that." Clara looked up at him, her gaze thoughtful. For the first time, she felt like someone truly believed in her. "Thank you, Naomi. I'll think about it," she said quietly, her voice tinged with emotion. As they finished their coffee and parted ways, Clara couldn't help but feel a new sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new. A chance to prove not only to others, but also to herself what she was truly capable of. The following week, Clara couldn't shake the thought of Naomi's words. She went about her daily tasks with the usual precision, but her mind kept returning to the idea of a future beyond cleaning. Could she really do it? Could she truly change her life? One evening after her shift, Clara found herself standing in front of the university's main entrance. She hadn't realized how much she had changed in the past few days. Her perspective on her life and on her worth was different now. It was then that Naomi appeared again, this time with a folder in his hand. "Clara," he greeted her, his voice calm yet filled with anticipation. "I've been talking to some professors. There's an opportunity for you. If you're still interested, this could be your chance to step into something bigger." Clara hesitated, unsure whether she was truly ready for such a step. "I don't know. I don't even know where to start," she admitted, feeling vulnerable. Naomi smiled gently, his eyes filled with encouragement. "You don't need to have everything figured out, Clara. You just need to take the first step, and I'll be there to help you every step of the way." Clara took a deep breath, looking at Naomi. For the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like she had the potential to be part of something bigger. "Okay, I'll do it. I'll take that first step." Naomi's smile widened. "I knew you could do it. Now let's go inside. I've already arranged a meeting with Professor Harris. He's the one who will help you get started." As they entered the building, Clara's heart raced. She had no idea what the future would hold, but for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of excitement. She was no longer just a cleaner. She was Clara, someone with potential, someone ready to take on the world. Professor Harris was a tall, stern man, his face weathered by years of teaching. He didn't speak much, but when he did, his words carried weight. "Naomi tells me you have a desire to do more than what you're doing now. You've got ambition. I like that." Clara felt a pang of nervousness, but she stood tall, her shoulders back. "I want to prove that I'm capable of more. I want to learn, to grow, to make a difference." Professor Harris nodded, his gaze softening for a moment. "Good. Then let's see what you're made of. We'll start with something simple, a project that will test your abilities. If you can handle this, we'll move on to more advanced work." Clara felt a surge of determination. This was it, the moment she had been waiting for. It wasn't going to be easy, but she was ready. She was finally stepping into a new chapter of her life. The project Professor Harris gave Clara was daunting. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't meant to be. "This is your first test," he had said, his eyes watching her closely. "I want to see how you think under pressure." Clara sat at her desk late into the night, surrounded by papers and books, trying to wrap her head around the task. She had no idea where to start. Every time she thought she had a solution, another problem arose. Frustration mounted, but Clara refused to give up. She had come too far to back out now. "I can do this," she whispered to herself, clenching her fists. By the time the sun started to rise, Clara had figured it out. She had come up with a solution. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. She knew that was all she needed. The next day, Clara nervously walked into Professor Harris's office. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest. I think I have something," she said, laying out her work on his desk. Professor Harris didn't say a word at first. He studied her work silently, his face impassive. Clara waited, her palms sweaty. She had no idea whether she had done it right. Finally, he looked up. "It's not perfect," he said, his voice neutral. "But it shows potential. You've thought through it well. This is a good start." Clara's heart soared with relief. She had done it. She had proven to herself that she was capable. "I know it's not perfect," she said, smiling, "but I'm willing to improve. I'll do whatever it takes to get better." Professor Harris nodded approvingly. "That's the attitude I like. Keep working like this, and you'll go far." Clara left his office feeling like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. The pressure hadn't been easy, but it had forced her to rise to the occasion. She was finally starting to believe in herself. As the weeks went by, Clara continued to improve. She spent long hours working on her projects, learning from every mistake. Naomi continued to support her, offering advice and encouragement. One evening, as she sat at her desk, Clara received a message from Naomi. "There's a new opportunity. It's a big one. You'll need to give it everything you've got, but I believe you're ready." Clara stared at the message for a long moment. This was it. This was her chance to take the next big step. She couldn't afford to hesitate anymore. She had come too far to stop now. Without a second thought, Clara typed back, "I'm in." "What do I need to do?" Naomi's reply came almost instantly. "Meet me at the office tomorrow. I'll explain everything." Clara smiled, her heart filled with anticipation. Tomorrow would be the start of something new. The next day, Clara arrived at Naomi's office early, her heart racing with excitement and nerves. She had no idea what to expect, but she knew this was a moment she couldn't afford to miss. Naomi greeted her with a warm smile. "Good to see you, Clara. I'm glad you're ready for this next step." Clara took a deep breath. "I'm ready. Just tell me what to do." Naomi led Clara to a conference room, where a group of people were gathered around a table. They looked like they were deep in discussion. Naomi introduced Clara to the group. "Everyone, this is Clara. She's joining us for the project we've been working on. Clara, meet everyone." Clara felt a little out of place. The team members were experienced professionals and she was just starting out. But Naomi's words gave her confidence. "Welcome aboard, Clara," said one of the team members, a tall man with glasses and a friendly smile. "I've heard good things about you." Clara smiled back, a bit shy. "Thank you. I'm really excited to be here." Naomi spoke up, drawing everyone's attention. "All right, everyone, let's get down to business. Clara, we're working on a project that could change everything for our company. It's a big deal." Clara's eyes widened. "What kind of project is it?" Naomi paused for a moment, then smiled. "It's a new product launch. But it's not just any product. It's one that could revolutionize the market. We've been working on it for months, and now we need your fresh perspective." Clara felt a surge of excitement. This was exactly the kind of challenge she had been waiting for. She had always dreamed of being a part of something big, and now here it was. Naomi gave Clara a knowing look. "We'll need your creativity. This project is about thinking outside the box, about challenging the norms and creating something truly unique. Are you up for it?" Clara didn't hesitate. "I'm ready. Let's do this." For the next few hours, Clara sat with the team, brainstorming ideas and discussing strategies. The project was far from easy, but with every challenge, Clara felt more and more certain that she was exactly where she needed to be. As the meeting wrapped up, Naomi pulled Clara aside. "You did well today. I can see you're going to be an asset to this team." Clara beamed. "Thank you, Naomi. I'm learning so much already. I'm grateful for this opportunity." Naomi smiled back. "This is just the beginning, Clara. We've got a long way to go, but I believe in you." Clara nodded, feeling more determined than ever. She was ready for whatever came next. Over the next few weeks, Clara immersed herself in the project. The team worked tirelessly, brainstorming, testing ideas, and refining their plans. Clara quickly realized that the road ahead would not be easy. There were long days in the office, late-night discussions, and countless revisions to their strategies. Clara felt the pressure building, but she also felt a sense of pride as she contributed more to the team's success. One evening, after a particularly intense meeting, Naomi pulled Clara aside again. "You're doing great, but I can see you're feeling overwhelmed. Don't forget to take a break when you need it." Clara smiled, but she was exhausted. "I'm just trying to keep up. There's so much to learn, and I don't want to let anyone down." Naomi placed a hand on Clara's shoulder. "I know you're giving your best. Just remember, we're all in this together, and it's okay to ask for help when you need it." Clara nodded, grateful for Naomi's support. "Thanks, Naomi. I'll try to manage better." As the project progressed, Clara began to find her rhythm. She learned how to manage her time better, delegate tasks, and communicate more effectively with the team. The pressure didn't go away, but she learned how to handle it. One day, as the final presentation for the product launch approached, Naomi called a meeting with the entire team. The atmosphere in the room was tense. Everyone knew this was the moment that could make or break their hard work. "We've come a long way, and we're almost there," Naomi said, addressing the team. "I'm proud of what we've accomplished, but we still have a lot of work ahead of us." "Clara, you've come so far. How are you feeling about the presentation?" Clara took a deep breath, feeling a surge of nerves. "I'm nervous, but I know we've put in the work. We're ready." Naomi smiled. "That's the spirit. We've all worked hard for this. Now, let's make it count." The presentation day arrived. Clara stood before a room full of executives, investors, and potential clients. Her hands were clammy, but she kept her head held high. This was her moment. As she spoke, she could see the faces of the room's audience lighting up with interest. Clara felt a wave of pride rush through her as the team's hard work paid off in real time. After the presentation, Naomi pulled Clara aside once again. "You were amazing. You've come so far since you first joined us. I'm proud of you." Clara couldn't help but smile. "Thank you, Naomi. I couldn't have done it without your guidance." Naomi smiled back. "You've done all the hard work. I just pointed you in the right direction." "This is just the beginning, Clara. There's so much more ahead of you." Clara's heart swelled with pride and excitement. This was only the beginning. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but she was ready to face them.